Alright guys, the Mad Hatter looking for redemption from a couple play calls that cost LSU a bowl game last year. LSU's taking on Iowa on New Year's Day in the Outback Bowl. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. It features a sort of identical storyline for LSU. After a little bit of an underwhelming season, they're going to be the favorites in a bowl game over a team that has potential to beat them with a stingy defense. It's a very similar storyline to the game against Clemson last year, only this year it's going to be without one of their stars. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but first we're going to start with the Iowa Hawkeyes. Let's summarize their season. They started out the year with a home shocking loss against Jordan Lynch in Northern Illinois. He just ran all over them, and NIU won 30-27. Iowa I guess they were just kind of shocked by that a little bit, but they were able to fight back. They won the rest of their non-conference slate and their first Big Ten game to go off 4 straight against Missouri State, Iowa State, Western Michigan, and Minnesota. But they then dropped 2 against Michigan State and Ohio State. Kind of left them in the middle of the pack in the Big Ten in typical style. But they beat Northwestern in overtime. And after losing to Wisconsin, who was 24th in the nation, 28-9, they were able to rattle off 3 straight victories against Purdue, Michigan, and Nebraska. This is a team that has struggled at times against good opponents, namely good defenses, only scoring 14 on Michigan State, 24 on Ohio State, and only 9 on Wisconsin. It's a team that's capable of putting up pretty good point totals, if not too lofty, and their defense is capable of stopping a lot of good teams. And that'll be interesting. I'm going to talk about that in a second. These guys had a kind of run-heavy offense. They had 200 yards a game passing, with their quarterback Rudock having 82-81 yards and 18 touchdowns, 92nd in the nation. However, they had 188 yards rushing, namely with Wiseman's 938 yards and 7 touchdowns on a 4.5 yard per carry average. These guys are going to look to run the ball against LSU. They're going to need to control the ball and the clock to win this game. And riding that 43rd in the nation rushing offense, they're hoping they can. These guys scored 27 points a game, which is low, 74th in the nation, but that stingy Iowa Hawkeye defense only gave up 18.8 points per game, 11th in the nation. A really solid defense that's going to carry them through this game. That's what's going to keep them in it. You can almost guarantee this game to be close because of it. It's going to be interesting because they're also facing an LSU team who's going to be starting a redshirt freshman quarterback. Yes, it's unfortunate to say, but LSU's own quarterback, Zach Mettenberger, went down. It means they're going to have to start Jennings, who only has like 10 pass attempts on the year. It's going to be very interesting. He really isn't proven. Mettenberger was the 3rd best quarterback QBR-wise in football this year with 3,082 yards and 22 touchdowns. He looked like a quarterback who was locked and loaded, ready for a shootout, and LSU looked stout early on. They won 4 straight to start the year, including a win over TCU when they were ranked 20th, 37-27, a win over UAB, a win over Kent State, and the only loss that the national title contender Auburn Tigers suffered was a 35-21 loss at the hands of LSU. So LSU has probably the biggest win of just about anybody on the year. They followed that up by losing 44-41 at Georgia. And then they were able to win 2 in a row against Mississippi State and Florida. The Florida one being a 17-6 close one. But then kind of their shock of the year was being beat 27-24 by Ole Miss. They followed that up with an easy game against Furman and then took off to Alabama looking to beat the Tide for another year. Every year they play at Alabama, they usually play them better, but this year Alabama was too much for LSU and they won 38-17 pretty handily. And that's really LSU's only bad loss on the year. The other 2 were by a field goal. They were able to beat Johnny Football and Texas A&M 34-10 and beat Arkansas 31-27 in a nail-biter to close out their season. Unfortunately for them, in that Arkansas game, Mettenberger went down and he's done for the year. Really for his career, I believe, because I think this is his last year at LSU. It's going to be interesting to see this team now. They wrote a very balanced offense, 34th in the nation passing and 31st running, 265 and 200 yards per game going into it. They scored 37 points per game while only giving up 22, both top 30 stats. I mean, this defense has always been stout. They're going to show up and play well. Their offense, I mean, they're still going to have Hill, who had 1,185 yards rushing and 14 touchdowns, along with McGee, who had 614 yards and another 8 touchdowns himself. And they're going to have to lean on these guys because their quarterback's not looking good for this. I don't know. It's a redshirt freshman going up against a tough defense. He has the potential to come out and shine, but LSU is going to look to lean on the run for this game for sure. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. I think even with the redshirt freshman, I think the LSU still kind of has the upper hand in this. They're 7.5-point favorites on the spread after that 9-3 record, and I think there's a good reason for that. I think LSU is going to show up a little stronger on defense in Iowa. I think they're going to shut Iowa's running game down more than Iowa's going to do with LSU. And I think they're going to grind this game out. And I think the final score is going to be 24-18 with the LSU Tigers taking home the Outback Bowl. Enjoy, guys. Good luck to both teams. The Mad Hatter looking to avenge his loss to Clemson last year. I think LSU is going to be tough for this one. But either way, have a good one. Enjoy. And have a great, safe New Year's. Bye, guys.